Hello friends, welcome to a new topic today. In this chapter, let us now learn about angina drugs. Okay, so the anginal or anti-anginal drugs include these drugs. What is angina? Angina is a chest pain, right? We have different types of angina like stable angina, unstable angina, Prinzmetal angina. This might lead to myocardial infarction. Okay, actually it is a spectrum of disorders which are called as coronary artery diseases. Okay, right. The first we will learn about the first group of drugs which are used in nitrates and which are most important, um, which are used in angina and which are most important are nitrates. So these nitrates are actually the drug of choice in angina. What is the drug of choice in angina? Nitrates are the drug of choice in angina. What does these nitrates do? As you know, these nitrates will release nitric oxide, and this nitric oxide increases cyclic GMP. This increased cyclic GMP will cause dephosphorylation of myosin light chain complex, myosin light chain kinase, and as a result there is no myosin actin complex. Because here there is no myosin and actin complex, there causes vasodilatation occurs. So that vasodilatation, our veins are dilated more than arteries, and this will decrease the preload and also decreases the afterload. Okay, because there is veins are dilated because of the dilatation. So what actually happens is, in the lower limb, okay, because of the nitrates, the veins in the lower limb are dilated. Because of the dilated veins in the lower limb, there will be pooling of blood in the lower limbs. Because of pooling of blood in the lower limbs, very small amount of blood reaches the heart, right? So if small amount of blood reaches the heart, then that is called as preload. Because there is decreased preload, obviously small amount of blood is the small amount of blood is only pumped out by the ventricles, so there is decreased afterload. Okay, so overall, because of decreased preload and also decreased afterload, there is decreased cardiac work. The work that the heart have to do has been decreased, and because of decreased cardiac work, this will also decreases the ventricular radius also, and this also decreases the oxygen consumption. Okay, so what do you see in nitrates? In nitrates, what does nitrates do? Nitrates will dilate the coronary vessels, and they also dilate the meningeal blood vessels. Because they dilate the cutaneous and meningeal vessels, the most common side effect of this nitrates is headache. Is the most common side effect which you encounter in nitrates. Why? Because of dilatation of cutaneous and meningeal vessels. They will decrease the splanchnic and renal blood flow also. There is one important, very favorable condition that the nitrates do. That is, nitrates causes redistribution of coronary arteries. What does nitrates do? They will cause redistribution of coronary arteries. So what is this redistribution of coronary arteries mean? Here the in our body during the ischemic state, that is whether it is myocardial infarction or whether it is angina, there are some ischemic areas which are developed due to the blockade of blood supply, most commonly due to atherosclerosis. Okay, so these ischemic areas, so we have ischemic areas are seen, and also there are non-ischemic areas are seen. Now which requires more blood supply? Ischemic areas requires more blood supply, right? So what does nitrates do is, they will relax the coronary bigger coronary arteries. They relax the conducting coronary arteries, and thus causes redistribution to the ischemic areas. So as a result, more blood goes to the ischemic areas. The blood from the non-ischemic areas is diverted to the ischemic areas, but at the same time it maintains normal tone in the ischemic areas. So there is normal blood flow to the non-ischemic areas also. So there is blood flow to the ischemic areas, and there is normal blood flow to non-ischemic areas also. So that is the main important positive factor that is done by nitrates, which is redistribution of coronary redistribution of blood flow. Then what about the pharmacokinetics? If you see pharmacokinetics, these are lipid soluble drugs. So because they are lipid soluble drugs, they are mostly preferred in sublingual route. So nitrates are mostly preferred in sublingual route, and they will through sublingual route they will bypass the first pass metabolism. Okay, so through sublingual route first pass metabolism is bypassed. Now these are metabolized by glutathione metabolism, and they are also metabolized by aldehyde dehydrogenase present in the mitochondria. So metabolism occurs by glutathione reductase and mitochondrial aldehyde dehydrogenase. Then what about the side effects? The side effects include, we have there will be fullness of head is seen. Because of this fullness of head, there will be throbbing headache is seen, right? You will also see in nitrate patients, there because of the vasodilatation which is occurring, there will be flushing and weakness. The patient develops sweating also. Then the patient develops palpitations due to the dilatation of vessels, and he develops dizziness. Why? Because of the pooling of blood. Because of venodilatation, there is pooling of blood in the veins. So because of that also there will be dizziness. Okay, and there is something called as methemoglobinemia also occurs due to nitrates. How does the methemoglobinemia occurs? This is the pathway. Hemoglobin will combine with sodium nitrate or amyl nitrate, and this will form methemoglobin. This methemoglobin combines with cyanide and it forms cyan methemoglobin. This cyan methemoglobin is involved in cyanide poisoning. Okay, now this cyan methemoglobin combines with thiosulfate, sodium thiosulfate, which is an antidote, and it forms methemoglobin plus sodium thiocyanate. This sodium thiocyanate is excreted in urine. Okay, so we have hemoglobin. This hemoglobin combines with sodium nitrate or amyl nitrate and it forms methemoglobin. This methemoglobin, in the presence of cyanide, it forms cyan methemoglobin. Okay, this cyan methemoglobin can lead to cyanide poisoning, has a side effect, right? Now this cyan methemoglobin in the presence of antidote, when you give, so the antidote of cyanide poisoning, what is the antidote of cyanide poisoning? Antidote of cyanide poisoning is sodium thiosulfate. This sodium thiosulfate will combine with cyan methemoglobin and it forms methemoglobin plus sodium thiocyanate. This sodium thiocyanate is excreted in urine. Okay, so it causes methemoglobinemia. Then there is one more side effect, is there is sometimes development of tolerance to nitrates. So in order to prevent the tolerance to nitrates, we use nitrates with a gap of every 6 to 8 hour nitrate free interval. That means if you see we have given one tablet at 7 am, the second tablet is given at 1 pm, and the third tablet is given at 7 pm. After that we have to give 6 hours of or 8 hours of nitrate free period. So we should not give it at 1 am, we should give it at 7 am. So that is how we give, we have to put at least 6 to 8 hours of nitrate free interval period per day. Per day at least you should put 6 to 8 hours of nitrate free interval to prevent tolerance. Okay, there is one more way how we can prevent the tolerance, that is by adding nitrates with hydralazine. When you add nitrates with hydralazine, this will decrease the risk of tolerance in these patients. Okay, this is one more way. Okay, then what are the contraindications? These nitrates are contraindicated with sildenafil or tadalafil. What is this sildenafil or tadalafil? These are phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitors. These phosphodiesterase 5 will inhibit the phosphodiesterase 5 enzyme, which normally metabolizes the cyclic GMP. But if you give nitrates with this phosphodiesterase 5, what happens is these nitrates will activate cyclic GMP. This cyclic GMP is metabolized by phosphodiesterase 5, but because of giving this inhibitors, that is sildenafil or tadalafil, this phosphodiesterase 5 is not metabolized, and as a result the cyclic GMP levels are increased. So this increased cyclic GMP level causes more and more or exaggerated vasodilatation. Because of this increased vasodilatation, this causes severe hypotension, which can lead to myocardial infarction, and finally it can lead to death as the side effect. Okay, so because of this you should never ever give nitrates with either sildenafil or tadalafil. Okay. Then we will see the drugs. The nitrates include, we have glyceryl trinitrate, isosorbide dinitrate, also isosorbide mononitrate, pentaerythritol tetranitrate, amyl nitrate. So we have glyceryl trinitrate, isosorbide dinitrate, isosorbide mononitrate, pentaerythritol tetranitrate, amyl nitrate. So what are the features of them? So if you see glyceryl trinitrate, it is a volatile liquid and it is stored in tightly closed glass container. This glyceryl trinitrate is volatile liquid and stored in tightly closed glass container. Isosorbide mononitrate has 100% bioavailability, whereas pentaerythritol tetranitrate is the longest acting drug, and amyl nitrate is given by inhalation and it is shortest acting drug. So these are important things. What is the shortest acting drug? Amyl nitrate is shortest acting drug. What is longest acting drug? Pentaerythritol tetranitrate is longest acting drug. Then we have one more drug which is called as milsidomine. What is this milsidomine? Milsidomine is an emerging agent to which tolerance does not develop. What is this milsidomine? It is NCX activator and it is a prodrug. It is an NCX activator and it is prodrug. It causes relaxation of smooth muscles. That is milsidomine. Fine. Next. The next group of drugs which can be used in angina are calcium channel blockers. Okay. So as I have already told you in the last class in hypertensives, the calcium channel blockers can be divided into two types. One, we have dihydropyridines. Second, we have non-dihydropyridines. Okay. These dihydropyridines are of different examples. What are they? We have nifedipine. Okay. Then we have nicardipine, nimodipine, clevidipine. Okay. These are the dihydropyridines which were there. So what are the main important features of dihydropyridines? That is nifedipine. Nifedipine is earlier used as sublingual for hypertensive emergencies. But now we are not using this nifedipine. Why? Because in nifedipine there is increased risk of myocardial infarction and mortality. Because of this increased risk of myocardial infarction and mortality, we are not using this nifedipine. But the question is, why is there increased risk of myocardial infarction and mortality? This is because this nifedipine will decrease the heart rate. Because it decreases the heart rate, this will increase the cardiac work, thus causing increased risk of angina. Okay. So this nifedipine is actually contraindicated in angina and it also causes natriuresis. So these are the side effects of nifedipine. What are they? It can increase myocardial infarction and cause death. So as a result, it is contraindicated in angina and it is also used in natriuresis. Then the next dihydropyridine is nicardipine. What is this nicardipine? What is the positive factor? It is the longest acting parenteral calcium channel blocker is nicardipine. It is the drug of choice which is used in emergency of hypertension. That is, in hypertensive emergencies, we can use this nicardipine as drug of choice. This nicardipine is used along with beta blockers, and once you use nicardipine along with beta blockers to avoid tachycardia. Okay. The next important drug is nimodipine. What is this nimodipine? It causes cerebrovascular dilatation and thus it is used in subarachnoid hemorrhage to cause compensatory vasoconstriction. Okay, so it is used in subarachnoid hemorrhage. Then next drug is clevidipine. What is this clevidipine? It is ultra short acting calcium channel blocker and it is also approved in hypertensive emergencies. These are dihydropyridines. Then we have non-dihydropyridines. So what are the drugs which we see in non-dihydropyridines? These can be divided into two groups. One, we have phenylalkylamine. Second we have benzothiazepine. Okay, what are seen in phenyl alkylamine? In phenylalkylamine we have verapamil and norverapamil are seen in phenylalkylamine. In phenylalkylamine we have verapamil and norverapamil are seen in phenylalkylamine. In benzothiazepine we have diltiazem. In diltiazem is seen in benzothiazepine. Okay, so these are the drugs which you see in non-dihydropyridines. Then what are the other dihydropyridines? These include isradipine, we have nitrendipine, lacidipine, felodipine and amlodipine. Okay, now what is the mechanism of action of these calcium channel blockers? See, these calcium channel blockers will decrease the intracellular calcium availability by blocking the calcium release, right? And as a result, what does they do? They cause relaxation of smooth muscles. Okay, based on the site of relaxation, they have different actions. See, in arteries, once they cause arteriolar dilatation, they decrease the afterload. Okay, by causing arteriolar dilatation, they decrease the afterload. They also decrease the activity of heart, thus causing decreasing heart rate. They decreases conduction and they also decreases AV conduction. Okay, they can also act on bronchial, biliary, intestinal, vesical and uterine muscles and cause their respective relaxation. Okay, so this is the common activity of all the calcium channel blockers, but there are a specific type of calcium channel blockers which are dihydropyridine, right, which we have dealt just now. What does these dihydropyridines called as? We call these dihydropyridines as peripherally acting calcium channel blockers. So what does these dihydropyridines do? They have more action on smooth muscle action. Their smooth muscle action or action on blood vessels is more than that action that they have on heart, and as a result they cause vasodilatation in smooth muscles, blood vessels. They cause vasodilatation of blood vessels in smooth muscles, and as a result they decrease the BP, and once they decrease BP, there is increased cardiac output, right? So in order to increase the cardiac output, there is compensatory increase in heart rate, that is tachycardia, and cardiac output increases. So these are dihydropyridines which are called as peripherally acting calcium channel blockers. The non-dihydropyridines, thus we call them as centrally acting calcium channel blockers. What are they? So if you see, non-dihydropyridines are called as centrally acting calcium channel blockers. Okay, so this is one important thing. Next, what are the non-dihydropyridines? They are verapamil and diltiazem. Next, what about the next issue, that is pharmacokinetics. If you see the pharmacokinetics, these drugs have high first pass metabolism. Number 1, these calcium channels have high first pass metabolism and they also have higher plasma protein binding. Now we will see the side effects, which is most important. So if you see the side effects, in the verapamil causes constipation, ankle edema and maximum cardiac depression. Verapamil causes constipation, ankle edema and maximum cardiac depression. Okay, what are the indications of this verapamil and diltiazem? You can use this verapamil or diltiazem in angina, paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia. You can use it in hypertension and hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy. Okay, then these calcium channel blockers are also avoided in 6 sinus syndrome or congestive heart failure along with beta blockers. So always you should avoid these calcium channel blockers in 6 syndrome or congestive heart failure, or they should be avoided along with beta blockers. So this is important. Then we will learn about few points about beta blockers. So in the beta blockers we have non-selective beta blockers and selective beta blockers. So now in what do we say, angina, which type of beta blockers can we use? We can use any type of beta blockers in angina, but these beta blockers are actually contraindicated in Prinzmetal or variant angina. But you can use these beta blockers in normal type of stable angina, but not the first line. But these beta blockers, if you are going to use in angina, you should always combine them with either nitrates or dihydropyridines to counteract with tachycardia. And one more thing, these beta blockers are the only anti-anginal drugs that decrease the mortality in patients with coronary artery disease. These beta blockers are the only anti-anginal drugs that will decrease the mortality in patients with coronary artery disease. Then the next group of drugs which are important here are potassium channel openers. So what does potassium channel what are the potassium channel openers? The drug which causes potassium channel opener is nicorandil. Nicorandil is potassium channel opener. So what does this potassium channel opener do? These will activate the ATP sensitive potassium channels and thus causes potassium efflux. There is potassium going out, and as a result it causes hyperpolarization in the vascular smooth muscles as the final effect. Okay, then these ATP sensitive potassium channels in mitochondria also activate something called as ischemic preconditioning. Okay, and thus because of this ischemic preconditioning, these are cardioprotective. And one more important thing, this nicorandil also produces nitric oxide and thus causing arteriolar and venodilatation. Okay, so these are different actions of nicorandil. So it has different ways of action. The main thing is it is an anti-anginal drug. So by causing arteriolar and venodilatation, it causes pooling of blood in the veins, and as a result it decreases the preload and also afterload. Thus it decreases the pressure or workload on the heart. So it can be used in angina. Okay, so this is nicorandil. Then what about the pharmacokinetics of nicorandil? If you see the pharmacokinetics of nicorandil, nicorandil has biphasic elimination. Then you should also see the side effects. What are the side effects of nicorandil? These include flushing, palpitations. The side effects include, we have flushing, palpitations because of dilatation of veins and arteries, we have these symptoms, and headaches because of meningeal vessel dilatation, we can have headache and dizziness. Dizziness because of decreased cardiac output and decreased blood flow to the brain can cause dizziness. This nicorandil is also associated with large painful aphthous ulcer in the mouth. It is also associated with hyperglycemia. So this nicorandil is associated with large painful aphthous ulcer in mouth along with hyperglycemia. Then what are the uses of this nicorandil? It can be used in angina, hypertension, and it also increases the blood flow in hair follicles. So you can use it in alopecia and insulinoma. Then now let us learn about newer drugs, some points about newer drugs. So there are some newer drugs which have been added in anti-anginal class drugs. So one of it is dipyridamole. What does dipyridamole do? This prevents the uptake and degradation of adenosine. And because it prevents the uptake and degradation of adenosine, it causes dilatation of resistant vessels in both ischemic zone, and also it causes dilatation of blood vessels in non-ischemic zone, and thus results in there is because it dilates both the vessels, that is ischemic zone and non-ischemic zone, we don't have enough blood to give both ischemic and non-ischemic zone, and as a result there is increased blood flow equally in ischemic and non-ischemic zones, but in ischemic zone we require more blood flow, but because there is more demand, but compared to demand the blood flow is less, so there is decreased blood flow to ischemic flow zone, thus causing coronary steal phenomenon. Then it also activates prostaglandin I2 and also decreases cyclic AMP in platelets, thus inhibiting platelet aggregation. So it has two main actions: one, coronary steal phenomenon; second, inhibiting platelet aggregation. The next newer congener include trimetazidine. What is trimetazidine? This trimetazidine is a fatty acid oxidation inhibitor. Okay, it is a fatty acid oxidation inhibitor. This trimetazidine will inhibit mitochondrial long chain 3-keto acyl CoA thiolase, and once this inhibits mitochondrial long chain 3-keto acyl CoA thiolase, this will inhibit the fatty acid metabolism in myocardium, and as a result there is shift of energy by utilizing the glucose. Thus glucose requires decreased oxygen, so because of decreased oxygen requirement there is decreased angina. See, how does this occur? See, if you see in the heart utilizes fatty acids. Okay, so for fatty acids to produce we require 50 ATP and 50 oxygen molecules. Then for glucose, in the glucose will combine with 50 oxygen molecules and give 100 ATP, but fatty acids combine with 50 oxygen molecules and give only 50 ATP. So if you see, this fatty acids require more oxygen and they give less ATP when compared to glucose, which require sufficient amount of oxygen and give more amount of ATP when compared to fatty acid. So as a result, what does this trimetazidine do? This trimetazidine will bypass this fatty acid metabolism and shift its metabolism by utilizing glucose. That is done by inhibiting the fatty acid metabolism through this enzyme, that is by inhibiting this enzyme, that is mitochondrial long chain 3-keto acyl CoA thiolase. Then it also protects against oxygen free radical damage. It also limits acidosis and sodium calcium accumulation during ischemia. So this is about trimetazidine. Okay, what are the side effects of this trimetazidine? It causes, the side effects mainly include, it causes gastric burning, dizziness and fatigue. Okay, then the next group of drugs are ivabradine. What are these ivabradine? These ivabradine are also called as funny calcium channel cations. See, funny calcium channel inhibitors. So what does this ivabradine do? Ivabradine, so if you see it there in the cardiac pacemaker cell, we have funny calcium cation channels. Okay, what does these funny cation channels do? They cause slow prepotential sodium influx. So this, before the action potential, this slow sodium channel influx is mediated by these funny channels. Okay, but in the presence of ivabradine, when you give this ivabradine, this slow sodium channels are inhibited, and as a result we have slow activation of this prepotential sodium influx. So if you see, this is the normal slope. If you give ivabradine, this slope has been decreased. So this, once this slope has been decreased, the heart rate is also decreased. So because of decreased heart rate, this decreased heart rate will cause decreased oxygen demand by the, this will cause decreased oxygen demand in the body, and thus you can use this ivabradine in angina to decrease the workload. What is the main side effect of ivabradine? The main side effect of ivabradine is visual disturbance. This ivabradine is a funny cation channel blocker. Next Next, the next group of newer anti-anginal drug is ranolazine. What is this ranolazine do? This is very important. It inhibits late sodium influx in myocardium. This ranolazine most commonly inhibits late sodium influx in myocardium and decreases the facilitation of cardiac entry and thus decreases the contractility. Okay, this ranolazine also inhibits long chain 3-KAT. It also inhibits long chain 3-KAT. If you see the pharmacokinetics, this is metabolized by CYP3A4. So what are the side effects of ranolazine? Ranolazine side effects include it causes dizziness, constipation, postural hypotension, it causes headache, dyspnea and QT prolongation. So these are the side effects of ranolazine. Then what does the ranolazine do? This ranolazine will decrease the occurrence of atrial fibrillation. Okay, so these are the important positive factors about ranolazine. It decreases atrial fibrillation. It results in small decrease in HbA1c. See what are the positive factors? It decreases it decreases atrial fibrillation. It causes small decrease in HbA1c. It is the first new anti-anginal drug which is approved by FDA. So among all these anti-anginal drugs, this is the first anti-anginal drug which is approved by FDA. It has no effect on BP and heart rate. Remember, this ranolazine has no effect on BP and heart rate, so it is safe to use with sildenafil, that is phosphodiesterase inhibitors. If you remember, nitrates should never be combined with sildenafil or phosphodiesterase inhibitors, but this ranolazine can be combined with sildenafil or phosphodiesterase inhibitors. Now what are the contraindications of ranolazine? It should not be given in patients with pre-existing QT prolongation, because the side effect of this ranolazine is QT prolongation. So because of that side effect, you should not give this in patients with QT prolongation. It should not be given in patients who are taking QT prolonging drugs like either class 1 or class 2 antiarrhythmics, right? It should not be given in patients who are taking potent CYP453A inhibitor. Why? Because it is metabolized by CYP3A4. Then it has significant liver and kidney damage also. If there is any significant kidney and liver damage disease also, you should not give ranolazine. So this is the important thing about ranolazine. Then the next group of newer anti-anginal drugs include, we have fasudil. What is this fasudil? This fasudil is a selective Rho kinase A inhibitor. Okay, what does this do? Normally this Rho kinase A, if you see, normally this Rho kinase A will cause vasoconstriction and thus causes cardiac remodeling. Once you decrease or inhibit this Rho kinase, this causes vasodilatation, has the effect. So because of this, it is used in angina, cerebral vasospasm. It is used in angina and cerebral vasospasm. Okay, the next newer anti-anginal drug is nitarsudil. See, this is also a Rho kinase inhibitor. This nitarsudil is also a Rho kinase inhibitor. Where is it used? This nitarsudil is actually used in open angle glaucoma. Though it is a Rho kinase A inhibitor, it is not an anti-anginal drug. Okay, with prostaglandin analog this can be used. Okay, this is not an anti-anginal drug, remember. So these are the different anti-anginal drugs which are used. So thank you guys for watching my lecture. In the next class we will learn about antiarrhythmics. Thank you for watching my lecture. Thank you.